But first, Champions League soccer is back, streaming on Paramount Plus. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold your breath. Oh, no, wait, he's reading the wrong script. This is the right one. UEFA Champions League soccer is streaming on Paramount Plus. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold your breath exhilaration is underway with the biggest stars, top teams, and craziest fan bases across Europe. Watch every match from the group stage through the knockout rounds as Benzema and Real Madrid defend their title against Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, PSG, Barcelona, and more in soccer's biggest club competition. So don't miss a single sweat-soaked second of regulation time, stoppage time, and extra time, and stream every match of the UEFA Champions League live exclusively on Paramount Plus, and also the Europa League, because Arsenal are in that, and that's actually the real competition that everybody wants to watch. Now, this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. We talk about BetterHelp on this podcast, and we talk about mental health, which is really important, a conversation that we should be having. But I think sometimes we think about mental health in terms of something you do when there's a problem. And so we focus on the problem instead of the solution. And I think it's one of the things that I've been learning as I learn about BetterHelp, and they send me some information about what they do, is really thinking about using this help as a solution system, right? And what I mean by that is focusing on things in your life that you view as challenges and ways that you can solve that if you had the support of a therapist, of someone who can listen to the challenges you have and work on solution strategies, right? So while there are certainly ways you can use BetterHelp for very serious and professional mental health support and therapy, there's also ways you can use it to find solutions to challenges in your life. And I've said this so many times, but whether it's eating right or going to the gym, we think about working on ourselves every day, and then we just ignore the biggest aspect of our happiness and our success as a human being, which is our mental health. I did use therapy, go back a while now, probably 15, 16 years ago, not because I was in crisis, but because I knew that I could just be doing better in life, in understanding myself and some of the things I was going through. One of the best decisions I've ever made. BetterHelp gives you the opportunity to access licensed professional therapists with specialties in an area of need that may not be available in your area. It's less expensive than in-person therapy. You can do it camera on, camera off. You can get matched in a day with a professional. So, I think this is something that everybody should at least be thinking about. And if you'd like to give it a try, when you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com, betterhelp.com/ArsenalVision, betterhelp.com/ArsenalVision today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp/ArsenalVision. And last but certainly not least, it is the one hiring partner that gets you the talent you need, where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills. Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. There's lots of great tools. One that I want to call out today is Instant Match. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data. And remember, Indeed is the one place where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Okay? Instant Match, why wouldn't you do this? You've got these people applying to jobs. They don't know what job to apply to. They don't know which hiring partner is the right, or which job is the right job for them. Instant Match, that's going to get the candidates that fit your needs to your job, and vice versa. It just makes sense. Indeed just makes sense. And it's an unbelievably powerful hiring partner, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. So sign up for Indeed now, right? You do it. You sign up. You get the credit towards your first sponsored job. This is all the stuff I've been talking to you about. It's time to do it. Visit Indeed.com/BlueWire to learn more. Claim your credit at Indeed.com/BlueWire. Indeed.com/BlueWire. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? You need it. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Clive's on Twitter. Clive PFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello, hello.
And Paul's on Twitter. Pause my pants. I'll pause. Woohoo. Woohoo, indeed, Clive. Welcome back to you. Welcome back to football. Welcome back, everybody. The season gets to start up again, and we get to go to Brentford, and we are going to talk Arsenal, and we actually have some stuff we can talk about, and that is the challenge of Brentford. And the first thing I want to ask you, Clive, is when the ball kicks off Sunday, 6 a.m. my time, which is a beautiful time for football, are we going to see an Arsenal that benefited from this rest, or are we going to see an Arsenal that struggles to regain the level before we took a break? How do you see this going? Beneficial rest or rust we have to knock off early?
I think we've had an opportunity to do what we've all done, which is like we're forced to take a break, and we've had to sort of mentally reset. So there's always, everyone always worries about the physical fatigue of players, but there's a massive mental fatigue as well. And to those players to be coming out of that football bubble for a little while and just reset and look at their goals, look at their fixtures ahead, look at how we're going to approach it. I think that would be interesting. I think from a playing point of view, having that time to recharge is important. So I think we're going to get a mentally refreshed team as well as physically refreshed. From a coaching point of view, we have a new fixture list ahead of us with a big team called Man City ripped out of it in the near future, but another team put in. And so now we're going to see basically playing every 3-4 days for the next month or so. So that's going to be a challenge. Back to my 5 subs thing, I think this is going to be the time when it really does kick in. And because, I'm looking at fixed lists and certain players, if they play 9 minutes every single one, they're just not going to make it, right? The ones that come to our mind that suffer with injuries more than others, they're just not going to make it. So how we share that time, I think is going to be important. So if I'm a coach right now, I am literally planning this game surgically the next few weeks. Minutes for him, and working out who's who and where they are in their load, etc. So sports science, loading players, trying not to overload players pre-World Cup. There's a lot to come in the next few weeks, and I think it's going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, I think ultimately, however frustrated I am with this pause in the season, and however nervous I am, given my proclivity for nervousness about the players being rusty and not being able to hit the level we were at before we took this break, realistically, a couple of good things have happened for Arsenal here. First of all, Thomas Partey gets a chance to get more fit. Emile Smith-Rowe gets a chance to get more fit. Some of these players that are already starting to pile up some minutes get a chance to get some rest. Mikel can work on some things because while our attack looks scintillating, maybe he wants to tighten up the way we're counter-pressing to keep the counterattacks from biting us in the butt. Was Ramsdale fully fit? Was Odegaard fully fit? Well, they probably are now. And then, oh, by the way, in the middle of this brutal run we have upcoming, how about we just pluck out a Manchester City game and pop in a PSV game? That's not too bad, is it? To take a little breather in the middle of what is going to be a grueling run. So all things being equal, Paul, this should be a good thing for us. This should allow us to have any of the bumps and bruises that were maybe becoming a problem, heal up. One game, then 2 weeks again of international football. Then we also lose the City game in October. So overall, do you think it's fair to say that while we all tend to always worry that the football world is out to get Arsenal, that maybe, just maybe, if we're really willing to be honest about it, this will have wound up being a good thing for what we want to achieve this season?
Yeah, I think on a relative basis, we would have wanted the season to keep going as it was, unchanged. We were on a roll. So, you're on a roll. Okay, we just lost to Man United. But apart from that, we were on a roll. We were on such a good roll that we kind of walked off the Man United defeat psychologically, and we're ready to go as a fan base. I mean, that takes some doing. We must be in a pretty good place if we lose at Old Trafford and say, yeah, that was one of those things. Mostly this was good. We need to tighten this up. We understood why. We rolled on. So, of course, given our choice, our options, we would have kept things as they were and kept rolling. Well, the gods stepped in, threw us a couple of curveballs, and that's the same for every team. So really what it comes down to is, can we take advantage of it? Because there are advantages for all the reasons you just said. We can recharge, realign, get people up to fitness, tweak some things. There are a couple of clubs who really love having had this break, but so be it. Maybe they won't take full advantage of the full advantage that was there for them. Maybe there was a bigger delta they could have had, but maybe they just won't take advantage of it. We got to take full advantage of it. If Thomas Partey is back, get him reintegrated, get him fit. At least it gives us a chance to work out where we're at with him. The problem with the game every 3 days is, you don't do much between those 3-4 days between a game. The players recover. They have an easy fitness session. Then you have one session before the next game. You can't You can't move all your pieces around on the board, do different things, try some wacky stuff, try out your new pre-game routine if you're Arteta on a unicycle with a clown horn and some poppers and some dancing can girls or whatever. Like, you got to go with your standard speech, basically. And across the board, you don't have the chance. So, like, there's real opportunity for us to consolidate. We've had a great preseason, a great early season, momentum, but we can still take things. I'm sure if you gave Arteta the chance to say, can you do a quick reset and take things up a level? He'd have been saying, well, I want the momentum, but there are things I do want to do with it. There are always things you want to do with your team, with your squad. And I'm sure Clive as a coach can talk to that. But like in life, you always want a break but you never get the chance. So we got a chance. We got to take advantage of it. We'll see what we can take out of it.
And in theory, a break like this should benefit a team that's well coached and a team that has more talent, because you get your talent fit and you get your time on the training ground. And, if you want to say, well, but it impacts you in terms of sharpness, it should theoretically impact everyone in terms of sharpness. I mean, we would have normally been facing Brentford this weekend, having played last Thursday, Sunday, Thursday. Now we face them having had a couple of weeks off. Oh, by the way, there's some weekend football with teams that did have to play midweek who are going to have to play again this weekend. It's also interesting because there's no United game, I believe. There's no Liverpool game. Is that right?
Correct.
No Chelsea game. And Look, it's about the points you score after 38 games, not after 6 or 7. But points on the board are points on the board. There's another big opportunity to not just put points on the board going into the international break in our toughest period of the season, but a chance to then put those points on the board in a weekend where some of the other top 4 challengers aren't playing and will have to go make those up somewhere during a crowded period of the season. So, Clive, it is all about getting the job done at Brentford, who are pretty good, as it turns out. They beat United 4-0 at home. They are a team that, they beat us opening night of last season, but you wouldn't recognize that lineup if I read it out to you. I think there's a chance to put some demons to rest here. We all remember the experience of going to Brentford and the commentators dancing a jig with the fans and singing the songs with them and everybody rooting against Arsenal on opening night of the season while we're missing players for COVID that, frankly, if it had happened a couple months later, would have been a postponement. Now we have a chance to right those wrongs. I think Arteta's definitely got his pre-match whiteboard stuff pre-written for him to some extent. So it's it's a chance, Clive, to right some wrongs. And I'm curious if you think that that's maybe an angle that Mikel Arteta might draw on in his pre-match comments as he gets his men ready to go fight.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? And I think that was not. If you look at that game, actually, data-wise, Elliot, it was actually not the worst game in the world. I remember it. I remember looking back, and we dominated the game. We just got bullied in key moments, right? And everyone enjoyed it. We weren't ready for the game. We weren't prepared. We had sickness, illness, etc. Players coming off
and bad players. Don't forget bad players.
We also had players that weren't ready to play. Martinelli shouldn't have played in that game. just fresh from the Olympics.
Balogun up front.
Yeah, and we never seen before. Saka wasn't able to play, but ended up coming on. So there were so many things wrong. Let's not go there, right? And the signings weren't in yet. It's different preparation time. I think we've had.
I got to stop you just for a second because Paul mentions Balogun up front, and I have to tell you, only Neymar and Mbappe have scored more goals than Fuller and Balogun in League One this season. So he is one of the top 3 players in the world right now. So let's put a little respect on his name. Oh, by the way,
Absolutely.
Loan Watch and Academy Watch over on the Patreon side. Please go ahead, Clive.
Yeah, thank you. But another little benefit, right? So of the rest we've had, and I can't stress to you enough about the mental rest. William Saliba's come into our team, and we all love him, right? But he's still new to the league. He's new to the pressure, new to the goldfish bowl that he's in. He's had a chance to refresh a little bit. Because in that last game against Manchester United, he was twisted out of his boots a little bit, wasn't he? Twisted around, had a couple of decisions to make. And before the light shines on him, he's had a chance to have a rest. Then he can refresh. And I think there are benefits here. The benefits will be taken away later in the year. So Brentford, 4-3-3 team, Yeah, they are. What do you do with Ben Mee and Pontus Jansson in their back line? They're not very sprinty, right? So you're going to drop deep. You're going to protect your box. You might give us the wide areas and say, cross it to us then, like Burnley do potentially. But what Brentford do have is fast wingers on the outside and a point in attack in Ivan Toney they can reach and set the play and then progress up the pitch. They're not too bad. I had a brief look at the Leeds game, which they won 5-2, but Leeds dominated, had more of the ball than them, more influence, dominated possession a little bit more. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. They're a club that we all sort of secretly like because of their approach and how they've done things. I think they're a model club to maximise their potential by using every marginal gain they can possibly manage, and their scouting is outstanding. And I've known about Brentford for many years from academy days, and they were the ones that actually took their academy away and developed another way of doing things. And so I think they're such a, such an clever club. So I've got a little bit of admiration for them, but I want them to be smashed into the smithereens on the weekend, obviously, from an Arsenal perspective.
Yeah, they've done their good work for the Premier League by beating United 4-0. So they can take the rest of the season off. I think maybe they can come back to life for a Spurs game or a Chelsea or Liverpool game, but that's it for now. It is interesting, Paul, because they are actually a pretty potent attack, right up near the top. Underlying metrics for attack. They obviously have a striker who can cause any defense problems, but defensively more middle of the road. And I think it does set up interestingly because I think their somewhat fragile defense is going to get pushed back and tested regularly by Arsenal. And our somewhat leaky counter-attacking defense is going to get challenged by someone who will threaten you physically and push you back and can run and can bully. And so I think in a lot of ways, it's going to be a bit of an interesting referendum on the strengths and weaknesses of our team as we see it right now. I think we will see a lot of what makes us special, controlling possession, controlling territory, and testing their defense. And a lot of what leads us to have concerns for those of us who have concerns, which is how we handle the long ball, quick counterattacking opportunities that they're going to try to funnel to Tony. So do you see the game playing out that way or have a sense of which of those two may win the day?
So obviously they're playing at home, puts a little impetus on them to do something and to be proactive, which I don't think hurts us. I would be fairly confident about this game. Obviously they have weapons, but this is not the back line they faced at home last year. If, for example, we play Tomiyasu, Saliba, Gabriel, if I'm one of their attackers, Tony, I'm not really fancying that. If we play Partey in midfield, really that's, if you're Tony and you're looking for weaknesses, if we don't play Partey, you're looking at Sambi. Now, I think Sambi's doing a very good job. I'm very supportive of what he does. I think we can adjust to him. But like, if you're Tony, you're thinking, ooh, I hope Sambi's playing. There's going to be pockets around that midfield. I'm going to win headers and challenges. Now, Sambi does all right on that stuff. I think his stats are actually half decent for winning headers and stuff. But still, if you're Tony and you have a knack for sensing a weakness, you're praying that it's a Sambi midfield, much as I quite support the Sambi initiative. So that's kind of, I think, a pretty binary situation. If Partey's in that midfield and say, like, Ben White is not a step down from Tomiyasu really as a player, but if you're Ivan Toney, you want to face Ben White more than Tomiyasu because Tomiyasu just never fucking loses. Now, there's not much in it. Putting Ben White does other things, obviously, and super cool on the ball and etc. But we put out Tomiyasu, Saliba, and Gabriel. I don't like that if I'm Ivan Toney. And I think down the other end, we're just so much a better team in terms of stretching them, creating opportunities. So look, football has a random event generator built into it. So who knows what will happen? Who'll get the first goal? who gets an injury, who this, who that. So best laid plans of mice and men. But on paper, like, I'm not particularly worried. I'm not walking off to the bank with the 3 points, but this is a matchup we should do well in. We're strong enough for. We should give them all kinds of problems. And the more they want to attack, the more open they can be for our attack. So
yeah,
that's really the one weakness, I think.
I'll give you just a few numbers, a few data points to back this up a little bit. So in terms of Brentford's attack, 10.2 expected goals this season, which, pretty good. Fifth place in that metric, wedged right between, Brighton, who are level on 10.2 actually, and just ahead of a team called Tottenham Hotspur, who are shit. So it gives you some perspective on where they are. In terms of expected goals allowed, 7.7. It is basically dead middle. Just worse than Newcastle, just better than Leeds. So, and to put it in perspective, by the way, Arsenal are second in that. We think about our leaky defense because we've conceded some silly goals. We are second in the league in expected goals allowed. Only Manchester City better, and a decent little bit ahead of Tottenham. I will say that Tony, who has 5 goals, one of them is a penalty. On non-penalty expected goals, he's at 1.8, and he scored 4 of them. So he's been pretty hot scoring. That hasn't been the case for him in the past necessarily. He is also, taking about 2.3 shots per 90. The only reason I bring that up, good, not great. So if you care about data, what you see in Brentford is a good attacking team, a modest defending team, middling defending team, and a striker who has run a little bit hot in front of goal, but maybe isn't like the all-conquering guy statistically. Having said that, if you watched him, you certainly see the physical threat he poses, and he caused us problems in the reverse in this fixture last season. In terms of players we're looking for here, Clive, I'm really interested to see, obviously what we do lineup wise, but we don't have any news on Thomas Partey yet, right? We don't know for sure, but do we have an inkling that he may be back?
He started training last week, and he would have been touch and go for the Everton game. So that makes me think he's going to be fit for this game, right? So there's other things to think about. I think he's been selected for the Ghana squad as captain. I'd expect that. The last international call-up before the World Cup. Will he play? Will it help for us not to play him? But he's going to go anyway. So it's going to be an interesting one, really, what to do there. Paul's point about Tomiyasu's in my head, actually. Tomiyasu versus White. It's still, we haven't had much to think about. So I've been thinking about our team more than other teams. And yeah, there is pluses and minuses for that. Aerial ability of Tomiyasu is quite good. Ben White's quite good as well, particularly when he can see it from a distance and go onto it. But what I will say is that just little things I saw in the Zurich game, Tomiyasu definitely plays more as a fullback and he's slightly wider. I do think Ben White's positioning has really been really transformational for this team alongside Zinchenko. If you look at the things that have really transformed how we feel about the team, our distance is centrally. Ben White's being a big part of that. Zinchenko being there basically everywhere. Look at the heat maps for yourself. Just ridiculous. And Jesus similarly. I think those 3 players with Saliba's security running backwards in particular, I think maybe those things have really transformed how we feel. Again, if you add the addition of just the natural maturity of Martinelli and Saka on top of that, it's no wonder we are where we are, really. Everything's moving in the right direction, isn't it? When you're playing Tierney and Tomiyasu in a Europa League game, that's not too bad, is it? And there are many people that would say they should be in the first team, and I wouldn't spend a long time arguing with them about that. So this doesn't just happen, So now I'm talking to you in this way, and I'm not talking to you for a while, chap, so it's nice to chat, but now I'm talking to you in this way. I'm thinking, mate, they're getting it on Sunday because we have transformed. Ivan Toney will not be pushing us back. Our line is higher. He does more damage around the box. He's not going to run from half a line like Marcus Rashford. So I know what I would do. I would squeeze the backside out of them. I would really move them around side to side until I find gaps to slide through and then cross across their area, not cross their area. not cross too soon, Cedric style into Ben Mee's head. That's just a joke, right? So yeah, that's the game plan I would go for. And I'm really excited to get there on Sunday, basically.
Yeah, well, one big advantage I think we've been handed, Paul, with Martinelli and Jesus not being called up for the Brazil team. Neither of them were, right? That's right. And Gabriel Magalhaes neither. Like, there's a couple of things going on here. Look, I don't think there's any chance, as Tim has pointed out, that Jesus doesn't make the team for the World Cup. Martinelli still has to go prove himself. He's got no international football for 2 weeks. He can just go attack this game with all the fury and energy of a man that wants to show his national team he belongs in that side, and he's going to have 2 weeks off after this game. I think knowing how important international stuff can be for these players, both proving they belong in the side, but also being prepared to play for the side, Jesus and Martinelli having 2 weeks off after this game is huge. They can go attack this game, really show what they've got. Maybe Martinelli, again, more than Jesus, wanting to prove a little something to his international manager as well. I think that's a huge benefit that we're being given. We do have a lot of players that are going to have, I don't think they'll have one eye on their international break, but, like William Saliba's been called up to the France team. He's going to be a full French international. That's big news. Is that in his mind? Is Saka thinking about England? I tend to think that the players won't think that way, but do you think the fact that neither Martinelli nor Jesus, or for that matter, Magalhaes, have been called up could be a little boost for us, especially when Martinelli's concerned?
So on the Saliba thing, you might as well consider him Brazilian. He's going to be as absolutely fucking nuts about solidifying a place in the French team for the World Cup
certainly
as any of the Brazilians. Like
certainly.
We've seen it with it's really with every team, except with a team like France or Brazil. There's just so much bloody competition that becoming an international is just the start of it. So he's right there with them. So he'll be fired up. The only issue with Martinelli is he needs not over-egg his pudding, right? It's not like he doesn't come out on fire going like the clappers for 90 minutes as it is. So it could be a bit of a Kieran Tierney thing with him a little bit, like maybe almost a little less is more. So I wouldn't like him to be too fired up. He's plenty fired up as it is, but certainly he won't lack for enthusiasm. They'll all be up for it. Just as footballers, they'll be gagging to get back on the pitch and bash somebody again. They won 5 out of 6 in a row. They dropped the ball. Now they want to get back at it. I don't think the energy of the stadium. Yeah, look, it's set up to be a crackling game. We won't have it all our way. But in general, look, the international breaks coming up after that, I think they'll have an eye on that. But as soon as this game starts to come up, the energy of it, it'll be all consuming for them. They won't see anything further than that 90 minutes. The energy going into the game, the energy of the game, and their motivation, their alignment to want to just absolutely have a killer performance is going to be there for all sorts of reasons. So I feel pretty good about it. I do coming out of the Zurich game. The thing I think is Arteta has some new information here. He didn't know what he had in Marquinhos, and now he has all this new data about how the guy performed and the chance to work with him to start integrating it. He's like, oh yeah, this is a thing. This isn't a possible thing. This is an absolute thing. Same with Vieira, right? Maybe nothing too surprising there, but even for him, it's his first time to put him in there. I think the feedback on Vieira from that game, people were like, it was all right. I think I thought he was really good, but that, a coach looks at it as a progression anyway. He doesn't look at it as, there's the guy's level. He says, where's he at? Did he do the things I expect? Where will he be at from there and from there? So he'll take that. He'll take Tierney, who was playing much more. He did a lot of that dropping into the midfield, but also had some killer defensive tackles, saving tackles. It was the one he had over by the right-hand post.
How you remember the Zurich game? I mean, did you watch it 4 times this week? What's going on here?
I did watch it more than 2 times. Well, we didn't play anybody else. I had nothing else.
It's fair point.
And people said things about players I liked, and I said, I don't agree. So I went back and looked at video to make sure I didn't agree. What else are you going to do? And argued with them as I get very angry when I watch it.
Well, please.
So yeah, so the coach has all this new information. Then he goes back to training, and he's got a sticker twist on with Tierney. Do I keep Zinchenkoing him, pulling him into the midfield, or do I give up on that idea and just use Tierney up? So he's been doing stuff with these guys. To your original point, I've changed my mind. This is a great advantage that he's had the chance to work, but more seriously, he's got data points on these Tomiyasu, Tierney, Marquinhos, Vieira in particular, even Eddie to some degree, right? There's a performance where he gets basically 90 minutes out of Eddie and sees it he's doing work with these guys all the time, even if we see them as couple of them as just slightly shy of starters. They're really close to starters. These are important players to him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd take issue with saying someone like Eddie's really close to a starter. He's nowhere close to a starter because Gabriel Jesus is extraordinary.
Say all of them. What you can say though is, here's what you can say about Eddie. He plays every game, and how early do you bring him on? So
he's a regular contributor to the first team.
But he's a major factor.
Sure. I totally agree. I was just nitpicking because why not? But you know what it is, Paul? The thing that I think is worth noting, to your point, Clive, when we played Zurich, we played with a much changed lineup. And in the last few seasons, when we've attempted to do that, we have looked like a shell of the not great team our first team was. We've looked a mess at any level, whether that level was Europa League or FA Cup or whatever it was. What I thought was notable about the Zurich game, to Paul's point, we put an Eddie out there and a Marquinhos out there and a Vieira out there and on down the line, Sammy. But we looked like Arsenal when we use our quote-unquote first 11. And that tells you the level, that these players are able to come in and play the same kind of football. And I do think that was good to see. I'm wondering, is there someone in that group that has an argument for a first 11 place? And certainly Marquinhos is not going to take Bukayo Saka's place. I don't think Vieira is going to take Xhaka's place, but the Tomiyasu one is interesting. Ben White has been brilliant this season, nothing short of brilliant. Whether or not he is playing a position that is absolutely natural to him or not is open for debate. Tomiyasu was a revelation last season when he played. Is that the one area where Mikel might be tempted to tinker, or is tinkering with a formula that has been largely really successful just a mistake to even consider?
Yeah, he might tinker, and I hope he can feel he can tinker in 4 or 5 places, because that's where we need to be, right? So one of the things
I don't think we're there yet, though.
We have to. The only way you find out is by playing people, and so Marquinhos and Vieira were new to us until a couple of weeks ago, and suddenly they're in our minds. No one would have played Ben White in that sort of inverted position last year, but now he looks very, very good at it, and all the numbers say he's very good at it.
It's a good point.
So I'm up for this, and so one of the things I've been thinking about in our enforced break is how we view football and where football is going when it comes to fixtures. I mean, I read this week that they're going to reintroduce 3rd and 4th round replays in the FA Cup. This fixture burden is not going away, right? So in a year when we have a World Cup, we have extraordinary events we've had over the pandemic and the Queen's death, they just move fixtures around. They just cancel on fans. They just cancel. And basically, there's one set of people just have to adjust to this even more so than the fans. That's the players. And these games are just not getting reduced. They're getting added to. And I'm starting to think, okay, what does that mean for us? Because that's all I care about. And so suddenly, Vieira, Marquinhos, and Tomiyasu and Tierney, and all those players that played against Zurich, they become incredibly important. And which one of them are going to stay? Do we have to add in more? And what type of players do we add in? Do we need a left-footed centre-back? I think we do. Right? Who's that going to be? Are we going to buy? Are we going to reintegrate Austin Trust into the squad and go with that next season? Right? These are the things that are in my mind, because football is just a product where people are going to want more and more. We had a situation this week, and the Todd Bowley discussed this week, I thought was really interesting. Not just because of the idea, it was very US-centric, but it's another game. And these ideas are out there. These ideas are out there. Whether that's the right idea or not, It's all about more games, more revenue, how that revenue is going to get shared. It's another game, and who's this again? It's the same subset of players. So for me, player welfare and creating a squad that allows us to protect careers. I tell you now, we lose games and we get sad about it. But mate, I'm telling you, if we ever overplay Bukayo Saka and see what happened to him, what happened to Jack Wilshere, none of us should be able to forgive ourselves for that. You know, because we all want him to start. None of us ever want him to be dropped. None of us ever want him to be rested.
Don't blame me.
Yeah. But do you see what the collective we here?
Of course,
do you see
I
where
see.
I'm going? The collective we do. We have to have the right people around to make sure we are not so selfish and desperate to see that kid play every minute of every game. We have to feel differently about this group. We have to feel differently about first 11s and how we assess the team. I think it's something that we all have to educate ourselves on and make sure we're comfortable with those changes. You know, Paul mentioned Tomiyasu White. I don't care. Make sure that we're both good enough that that it's not a problem. Do you see what I mean? And then we can discuss the differences. And that is so much where we need to head to. And that's the next phase of not just this project, but the project for football, because the authorities are rinsing those players out massively. And all I can see, I might have been you, Elliot, you and Kaya talking about. I definitely heard these numbers somewhere. That if we get to the final of all competitions, we'd have to play something like, I don't know how many games in weeks, but it's literally every 3-4 days for like 20 odd weeks.
Make up a number, Clive. What number do you feel it was?
I have the number here, actually. It's 213 games over the next 40 weeks. So.
it's something ridiculous.
By the way, don't check that. It's right. Just quote it to your friends. It's right.
I've got those numbers flying around my head now, and I can't get the right ones. But it's something like
want to be 20, like a 50 something or other, 58 or something.
It was. 55. I'm going to find a number for the podcast. But
why are you contradicting my numbers? I told you the number. Just move on, please.
But none of that tells me that we're going to have a week between each game and loads of prep time to work on our pattern of play, etc.
Yeah.
So there's a new game appearing right in front of us, mate. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well said, Clive. Well, Paul, in terms of this weekend and the situation with our team, I feel like at this moment, maybe more than any moment in recent memory, I really know how we're going to try to play, who we're going to use, what the patterns of play are going to look like. And I don't think that just benefits us as fans in terms of our confidence level or understanding. I think it benefits the players, certainly. I am curious to see if that same sort of level of understanding and familiarity comes back right away against Brentford. One of the sort of interesting stories to this season, I think, is the debate that's developing that I only want to quickly touch on. It's such a uniquely Arsenal thing, not just Arsenal thing. I think it's a fan thing. Saka versus Martinelli. Right? Saka versus Martinelli. And I'm sure, I don't know, I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I'm sure they had a Salah versus Mane at one time, right? I'm sure this kind of thing happens at other teams. Probably not because they don't have two players as good as Saka.
Firmino, Jota kind of thing, or Jota, kind of thing. Whoever.
Except those were more like for like, right? Like one could play in the other. I'm curious how you look at this, because there is this sort of, Martinelli's gone beyond Saka, or what are you talking about? Saka's better than Martinelli. They don't play the same position. They both start. They're both awesome, and they're both Arsenal, and probably for a long time. So I don't see the need to do it. But I'm curious, in terms of looking at how these two players are compared, what's your thought on making those kind of comparisons? And if that competition, even within the squad, will spur them on. Martinelli gets off to the fast start with 3 goals. Saka wants to reassert. I mean, how do you think those dynamics play out? Not in the context of how we debated as fans, but in the context of a squad and whether, the players are sort of aware of those comparisons or maybe feed into them themselves.
Yeah. Look, it's great. And the players themselves will love it. Because the alternative is a team in which there isn't that spark, there isn't that bit of comparison, there isn't that competition. Like a happening team that's on the bubble has a really good balance of competition and cooperation. And like Saka and Martinelli will be sparking each other. If Martinelli's having a great game, Saka will be asking himself, is it him? Is it what's it like? He'll just be up for it. It's a level of competition, cooperation. It's setting a standard, setting a bar. But when you have somebody like Gabriel Jesus at striker, who goes out there from the word go, going like the clappers, spurring on Martinelli, driving him, forcing him to match his energy. Saka meets that. Odegaard meets that. They're all just going to be sparking each other. So there'll be some light level of competition, and good luck to, like, athletes compete. And if somebody's doing stuff, performing at a level that's above somebody else on the other wing, they're going to, they're not going to enjoy not performing, and they're going to keep coming, trying to push themselves on, push themselves in practice, just mentally always focused in, not getting caught up in a whole load of bullshit about, oh, woe is me, and the coach this and that and the other. There are no excuses, and so you're going to want to go out there and perform. In a complex system, a well-performing complex system, which a team is, has competition and cooperation built into it. All effective complex systems that survive have a mix of competition and cooperation. Teams are no different. Tierney, Zinchenko will be competing and cooperating. The back line, you can see the relationships and also imagine the competition between our potential centre backs, our wingers, our full-backs, our midfielders. They'll make each other better. Competition in the right framing, which is what we have. We've lots of games, lots of competitions. There'll be times in a season. Now, for the players, they always see the next game. You'll hear all the stories about people traipsing into Wenger's office or Alex Ferguson's office, wanting to know why they're not playing the next game. And he'll set their mindset for, look, I'm resting you here because I want you for the next game or some other, play his mind games.
The All or Nothing documentary, I thought, had a really illuminating moment on that when Sambi was sort of brooding in the commissary. And I think it was Nketiah who's like, why are you upset? And he's like, I want to play. I'm not playing. And Nketiah was like, you're not the only one not playing, mate. Like, we all want to play, and I thought that was just a really illuminating moment, in terms of they don't like it, but they know they're, it's part of the business.
Yeah. And that's not great. But then we didn't have Europa League at that point. I think we're out of the cups at that point. We didn't have 5 subs. This is a whole new ball game. They all that's the beauty of it. Compete, and if you don't get in as a starter, you have a great chance to get in as a sub, and then the next game round, and then there's Europa League and the cups to come. And among the fans, sure, fans are going to fan, but
look, we're always going to. If you think there'll ever be an end of people debating who the better player is, even among their own players, you're wrong. It's just human nature, and I think unfortunately it swings too wildly on what happened in the last game. That's human nature. The more important thing is we have all this talent. And Clive, maybe a final thing to consider here. We have all this talent now. Are we going to have all this talent in the future? Well, one way you keep the talent in the future is by signing them to contracts. And neither Bukayo Saka nor William Saliba have signed one. We got a question about this on the mailbag pod that you were not on, so I do want to give you a shot at this. Do you have an eye on this issue at all? Are your thoughts with it? I know as a manager, the last thing you want to be thinking about is contracts in the middle of a season that's off to a good start. You want the focus on what's happening on the pitch. It may suit the players and the manager not to be focused on the contract. I'm sure Edu and the club, though, do not feel that way. What's your thought on the Saliba and Saka contract situations as they stand?
Well, funny enough, there's a lot of chat today sort of saying there's little things that are being briefed out there saying that Martinelli, Saliba and Saka are in a positive place contract-wise. So this break has maybe given them a chance to progress on those types of things. Saka's come out and already said that he agrees what Arteta says about being positive about the contract. You know what I tend to focus on, Elliot? I tend to focus on what we look like as a team, as a group. Are we going forward? If a player leaves us now, then we would be quite shocked, wouldn't we? because it
Yes.
can't get much better than this, right? So given where we are, youngest team in the league, top of the league, it can't get much better than this. So if you don't like this feeling, what's happening in the ground, what's happening about how we feel about the team, the unity, if you don't like this, then that's all right, mate. On you go. Before we'd be worried about this, knowing we didn't have the right makeup of the squad, knowing we weren't sure where we were with ownership and their investment, etc. We weren't sure the roles and responsibility at exec level. There were things that weren't right. There were people in the squad that were in the dressing room that shouldn't have been, and leaking stuff to the press. All that stopped. So if you don't like this, then I'm all right with it because we'll survive. One thing that is in my mind, though, Elliot, just on top of this, I've just seen the England squad announced, and Ben White's not in the England squad, and that infuriates me because that means we've still got a way to go with our perception to the outside world, because I don't think you can watch Arsenal and say to me that Ben White's not playing well. That's how I feel, and people may not agree with me. People may think that the positional change has maybe disadvantaged him, but Southgate plays a back three. I'm looking at that squad with Eric Dyer in it, Tomori in it, Connor Cody in it, Mark Gray.
Can I just ask you a question, though, quickly? Hasn't he been carrying a little bit of a knock? He's been getting subbed off. I don't think he's been totally fit. Is it possible that this is
to be explained?
Related to that?
Maybe I shouldn't go too heavy because that may come up to that. But he started all the games that we need him to start, apart from one that we'd expect him not to start. So there could be that involved. But I still feel we've got a way to go on our perception. And that's why we worry about things like contracts. Well, I don't have that perception any longer. I think it's a positive place to be, and we're playing positive football. And I think we should be less stressed about people leaving and more concerned about the right people coming. And honestly, Stevie doesn't want to be here. From this year on, we've invested in him, and I don't see a problem. Saka's obviously loved, and Martinelli also loved, and I'm just not going to stress about it. It's much more important we have the right environment and the right sort of project end to end ongoing, so that people don't even think about looking out the door.
Yeah, well, I think ultimately my instinct is that the contracts will get done, but it may go to the end of this season. I think as long as the season goes the way we expect it to, it'll be fine. The thing that you have so much power over with these players now is no one can pay like the Premier League can pay. So unless you're getting a big offer from a club that's in a better position in the Premier League, and let's face it, there aren't many of those clubs right now. It's City, and then you pick the one you think a player would rather go to. Would they rather go to United right now? Would they rather go to Chelsea? I mean, Saka, no, for sure. Saliba, I wouldn't think so. They can pay more. Outside of that, even the likes of Real Madrid and Barca, I mean, all right, when those kind of clubs come calling, I get that it can be hard to keep your players. But economically, we can probably go, if not totally toe-to-toe, pretty close. So I'm not super concerned, but I do think that this one could run just a little bit longer. I think we should leave it there. There's going to be a lot to finally talk about in terms of what happened on the pitch after Sunday. And then we're going to have 2 more weeks. So we're going to tee up some fun extra content. I think that we've been keeping our powder dry, so to speak, with some ideas we've had in mind, and those are going to be coming out next week. We did do a Loan and Academy Watch on the Patreon side. Hopefully you'll check that out. But All-Star football is back this weekend at Brentford, baby. The only All-Star team you need to watch, Arsenal's All-Stars, back in action, and I, for one, couldn't be more happy about it. Paul's on Twitter, Pause My Pants. Thanks, Pause.
Woohoo!
Clive's on Twitter, ClivePFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Football's back, baby. Hope it's a beautiful weekend. Hope you enjoy your weekend wherever you are, and we can't wait to talk to you on the other side of it. We love you, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Brentford 0.